The morning the royal messengers came to our village, I was drying herbs on the porch of my small healing hut. The sun hung low over the hills, painting the roofs of our clay houses in a soft gold that made everything look peaceful, too peaceful for what was coming. My name is Lyra, a healer of Valeris, or more truthfully, of a small village at the edge of the kingdom where the mountains meet the mist. I've lived here all my 20 years, tending to the sick, mixing herbs, and delivering babies when the midwives were too afraid to go out in the rain. Life was simple, and I liked it that way. Until that morning. I remember the sound, first hoofs pounding the earth, distant but fast. People stopped what they were doing. Mothers pulled their children inside. Farmers dropped their hoes. Royal horses never came here. When they did, it was never good news. The riders appeared through the dust, 3 men in silver armor with the crest of the Shadow Prince glinting on their chest. A black sun crossed by a silver blade. The sight made my heart race. By order of the Royal Council of Valeris, the leader shouted, his voice echoing off the hills. We seek the healer called Lyra. Every head turned. Mine included. I felt my hands grow cold. Me? I whispered under my breath. The messenger dismounted, holding out a scroll sealed in black wax. You are summoned to the capital by decree of Her Majesty, Queen Mirabelle. You have been chosen. Chosen? I asked, my voice trembling. Chosen for what? The man's eyes flickered briefly with something like pity. To become the bride of His Highness, the Shadow Prince. The words fell like thunder. The people around me gasped. Some made the sign of protection. A few stepped back, as if my shadow suddenly carried a curse. Everyone in Valeris knew the tales of the prince who lived in darkness, cursed since birth. They said he was born during an eclipse, when the sun and moon fought for the sky. They said his shadow moved when he stood still. And that any woman who touched him vanished before dawn. I laughed nervously. You must be mistaken. The messenger only looked at me with grim certainty. Your name was called by the oracle herself. Prepare to leave before sunset. Before I could speak, they handed me the scroll and turned their horses. The villagers stared as they rode away, leaving behind a trail of dust and silence. I stood frozen, clutching the scroll. That night, I didn't sleep. The entire village buzzed with whispers. She's doomed, someone muttered. The curse will take her. Poor girl, may the gods be kind. But amid their fear, I felt something strange, not dread, but a faint pull inside me. As if part of me already knew this path was waiting. I stared at the moon through my window and whispered, why me? The scroll sat on my table, unopened. My hands shook as I finally broke the seal. Inside, the queen's message was short and final. By decree of the crown and the oracle's vision, you are summoned to fulfill destiny beside the Shadow Prince. The curse must end. The kingdom must survive. You shall depart at dawn. Destiny. The word felt heavy on my tongue. I'd never believed much in destiny. I believed in herbs, in sweat, in hard work and kindness. But destiny. That belonged to kings and heroes. Not to girls like me. Still, at dawn, I packed my satchel with a few herbs, my mother's locket, and a cloak. I left behind my small hut and the people I had healed. The capital of Valeris was 3 days away by carriage. The messengers came again, their faces unreadable. As we traveled, the landscape changed, green fields fading into silver forest, then into the cold misty plains where the castle of shadows stood. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, vast towers piercing the clouds, walls black as night, and torches that burned with blue fire. Even the air felt heavier there. When we arrived, the castle gates opened silently, like a mouth swallowing us whole. A woman awaited me in the courtyard, tall, graceful, and wrapped in a gown of silver silk. Her crown glittered faintly even in the dim light. Welcome, Lyra, she said, her voice smooth and cold. I am Queen Mirabelle. I bowed, my knees weak. Your Majesty. Her eyes were sharp, studying me as though I were a puzzle. So you are the one the oracle named. You don't look like much. I swallowed hard. I'm only a healer, my queen. I don't understand why I was chosen. Neither do we, she said, turning away. But the cause demands a bride. And the oracle said your name. So you will obey. 2 guards stepped forward and led me through long, dark corridors lit by pale torches. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. We stopped before an enormous black door carved with ancient runes. His chamber, one guard said quietly. You may enter. My breath caught. Now. Yes, the queen's voice came from behind me, cool as ice. He does not sleep when others do. He will meet you tonight. The door creaked open on its own. A gust of cold air brushed my face. Inside, the room was vast and shadowed, lit only by faint silver light filtering through a high window. I could barely make out the shape of a man standing near the balcony, tall, cloaked in darkness, unmoving. I took a hesitant step forward. Your Highness. He didn't turn. His voice came low, deep, almost a whisper. You are the healer. Yes, my lord. My voice trembled. I was told I am to be your bride. There was a pause. Then a sound, like quiet laughter, but hollow. Bride. Is that what they call it now? I couldn't see his face, only the outline of his form against the moonlight. His presence felt strange. Like standing too close to a storm. I don't understand, I said softly. Why me? He turned then and I froze. His face was partly hidden by shadow, but I saw his eyes. One burned gold like the sun, the other silver like the moon. They didn't belong in the same man. Because, he said, his voice echoing softly through the chamber, the oracle believes you can end what began the day I was born. I opened my mouth, but no words came. He stepped closer. The air grew colder. For a heartbeat, I saw his shadow move, even though his body was still. You shouldn't have come, he whispered. This curse, it devours everything it touches. I didn't have a choice, I said, though my voice barely held. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the briefest moment, I saw something behind the darkness. Pain. Loneliness. Maybe even hope. Neither did I, he murmured. A sudden wind swept through the chamber, blowing out the torches. The door slammed shut behind me. I gasped and turned, pounding on the door. Wait. What's happening? Behind me, his voice came again, softer now, almost sorrowful. It begins tonight. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed everything was his shadow stretching across the floor, reaching for me and moving on its own. When the torches went out, I thought the darkness would swallow me whole. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room felt alive, whispering, pulsing, shifting with something unseen. Then I heard his voice. Stay still, the Shadow Prince said. Don't move. Easy for him to say. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But where could I go? The door had sealed itself, and the only light came from the faint silver glow in his mismatched eyes. I clutched my satchel against my chest, trying to steady my breath. What's happening? The curse, he said simply. It reacts to new life. New energy. His tone was calm, but I heard something underneath it, tension. Fear, maybe. I swallowed hard. And what does it want? He stepped closer. You. A shiver ran through me. Not from cold, though the air felt like winter, but from the way his presence filled the room. Every movement he made seemed to stir the shadows themselves. He raised a gloved hand, and I saw dark tendrils slide back into the corners like mist obeying its master. The torches flared to life again. The room looked different now, elegant but strange. Heavy curtains, silver mirrors that reflected nothing, and walls inscribed with faint glowing runes. In the center stood a black marble table covered in ancient books and maps. "Why do you live like this?" I asked quietly. His lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "Because this is what's left when the light abandons you." For a long moment, we just stared at each other. He wasn't what I'd imagined. Not monstrous, not cruel, just distant. Like someone standing behind a wall no one else could see. I gathered the courage to step closer. "May I ask, how did the curse begin?" He turned away, his cloak rippling like smoke. "That's a story older than either of us, Lyra. And it's not one I enjoy telling." He started toward the door, and I followed without thinking. "But if I'm supposed to end it, I need to understand it." He paused. "End it?" "That's what the queen said," I said. "That the oracle believes I can help." He let out a low laugh, humorless and cold. "The oracle sees only fragments. Destiny is a cruel puzzle, Lyra. Be careful when you try to solve it." He opened the door, and to my relief, it didn't resist him this time. "Come," he said. "You should meet the oracle yourself. She'll decide what happens next." The oracle's chamber was deep within the castle, past winding corridors lined with statues that seemed to watch us. I stayed close to him, though I didn't admit to myself why. When we entered, the room smelled of incense and old magic. Crystals hung from the ceiling, catching the dim light. An old woman sat cross-legged at the center, her eyes milky white but glowing faintly blue. "I have been waiting for you," she said, her voice like wind over glass. "Me?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "The healer who carries the mark of light." I frowned. "I don't have any mark." The oracle lifted her hand and motioned for me to come closer. When I did, she reached out and touched my wrist. The moment her fingers brushed my skin, a faint golden shimmer appeared, a tiny symbol glowing beneath the surface of my skin. I gasped. "What is that?" "Light bound to heal darkness," she murmured. "The old prophecy speaks true." The Shadow Prince crossed his arms. "Prophecies have spoken before. None have changed anything." The oracle turned her head toward him. "Because none of your brides were born under the twin stars." He stiffened. "And she was." "She was," the oracle said simply. "Lyra of the valley, born during the convergence of Solis and Lumen. The one who carries warmth even in shadow." I blinked, completely lost. "I don't understand any of this." The oracle smiled faintly. "You will. In time." She looked toward the prince again. "But beware, Kale. The shadow watches. It grows restless." The prince's jaw tightened. "It always does." The oracle reached into a bowl of black sand and drew a circle with her finger. "Take her to the east wing. The rooms of light have been prepared." He hesitated. "That place hasn't been opened in years." "Then it's time it was," the oracle said. The east wing felt different from the rest of the castle, warmer, brighter, almost alive. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, casting colors on the marble floor. It felt safe. But when I turned to thank the prince, he was staring out the window, his face unreadable. "You shouldn't be kind to me," he said suddenly. I blinked. "Why not?" "Because everyone who is, disappears." The way he said it made my chest ache. I wanted to ask what he meant, but his expression told me not to. Instead, I said softly, "Maybe they disappeared because they stopped believing you could be saved." For the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes, not darkness, not power, but surprise. He turned toward me. "You don't know what you're saying." "Maybe not," I said. "But I know how it feels to be afraid of something you didn't choose." He looked at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Rest, Lyra. You'll need your strength. The curse doesn't sleep for long." He turned to leave, but I called after him. Wait, Prince Kale. He stopped at the doorway. If the shadow comes back, what should I do? His reply was quiet, but it sent a chill down my spine. Pray it doesn't touch you. That night, I couldn't sleep. The castle creaked and whispered like an old tree. I sat by the window, watching moonlight pour through the glass, thinking about the mark on my wrist. Light bound to heal darkness. What did that even mean? I heard footsteps outside, soft, slow, careful. My heart pounded. Prince Kale. I whispered. No answer. The air grew colder. My candle flickered out. Then I saw a shadow sliding under the door, stretching across the floor toward me. But it wasn't shaped like any person. Its form twisted, reaching like long black fingers. I stood, backing away until my shoulders hit the wall. The shadow crawled closer, rippling. My mark began to glow faintly gold, burning hot against my skin. Stay back, I whispered, though I didn't know who I was talking to. The shadow hesitated, almost as if it understood me, then lunged. Light exploded from my hand, bright and fierce. I screamed as the room shook, and the shadow recoiled, vanishing into the cracks of the wall. The door burst open, and Prince Kale rushed in, his cloak swirling. His eyes burned gold and silver in the dim light. What did you do? He demanded. I was shaking. It came for me. The shadow. He looked around, jaw tight. It shouldn't have been able to enter here. Then his gaze fell to my glowing wrist. His eyes widened. You touched it, he said. I didn't mean to. You touched the shadow. His voice was harsh, but there was fear behind it. He stepped closer, staring at the faint light fading from my skin. Lyra, he whispered, almost to himself, you've bound yourself to the curse. Please watch out for the next episode.